Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're wrapping up our look into one of the really powerful and frankly tragic traditional tales from the Gambia, the story of Maa Sanneh Ceesay. If you caught part one, you'll know this is a cultural narrative just full of conflict, ambition, wealth, destiny, all colliding. We saw Maa Sanneh, this very determined suitor, using his incredible success, his money, to pursue a woman who loved someone else. So our mission today is to really dig into the source material that outlines the consequences, the dramatic fallout, basically the fatal price paid when gold tries to buy a love that, fate had other plans for.
Exactly. And this isn't just some old story, For you listening, understanding this deep dive helps grasp the power dynamics in traditional Gambian society. It's a story that acts as a serious cultural warning. It really details what can happen when family duty, tradition, and spiritual beliefs clash with personal feelings, with love. Yeah. We need to look closely at the mechanics of this tragedy. It's not just people making choices. There's this other force, tradition, mysticism, pushing things along.
That's a perfect way to put it. We left off with Maa Sanneh Ceesay having spent a fortune, really, to win over Fatou Gomez. Now, things shift. The stage is set for tragedy. But it starts with what looks like his ultimate success, right? So the story takes us right to Maa Sanneh's place in Bondal Fati. His messengers come back, and they've got the news that just kicks off this whole second act. Fatou's father, Fatou Gomez, he's accepted the bride price.
And that acceptance, that's the pivot, isn't it? It just changes the whole game from, courtship to a transaction. For Maa Sanneh, he's ecstatic. His wealth worked. The wedding is immediately set for Thursday. His name is like the talk of the village. He's the man who got what he wanted against the odds. He feels totally validated.
But we have to stop there for a second. Think about the father's decision. Accepting that money, he's basically signing off on the betrayal, right? What does that choice tell us about the cultural importance of financial security here?
Well, it speaks volumes. It shows practical concerns, obligation, potentially overriding emotional ones. That accepted price, which is probably quite large, means the family is now tied to Maa Sanneh financially. Fatou Gomez is choosing prosperity, status, what Maa Sanneh represents, over his daughter's actual happiness. He's securing his family's comfort, maybe their future. But in doing that, he puts Fatou in just an impossible spot.
An impossible spot is right. And you see that immediately when the story shifts focus to Fatou Gomez. She's the prize, celebrated in public for being quiet, modest, beautiful.
Yes, but the sources, they're very quick to point out the internal conflict. Publicly, she's compliant, beautiful. But inside, her heart is still completely with Bakary Numinko, the fisherman from Niumi, the humble one. The narrative immediately sets up this contrast. The gold that bought her versus the genuine connection she has with the man who only has what the river gives him. That contrast is really the emotional core of the disaster that's coming. And the pressure on Fatou just ramps up the second that bride price is accepted. The women in the village, they sort of descend on her, chatting, celebrating, supposedly. But they're basically acting as agents of the status quo, of society's expectations. The text says they spoke as if sent with a purpose, and that purpose was clearly to convince her she has to marry up.
And they use Maa Sanneh's new shop, his very visible success, as their main argument. It's not just gossip. They're hammering home the economic reality she's expected to choose.
Exactly. They're teaching her, essentially, that love is nice, but it doesn't guarantee security. They're pointing out that Bakary, the fisherman, he provides for today, maybe, but Maa Sanneh, he provides security status for her children, her whole lineage.
This tension just peaks in that really heartbreaking scene. Bakary comes back from the river. He walks into the compound, his hands full of freshly caught fish. He has absolutely no idea what's just been decided. He greets Fatou gently, gives her some fish, and leaves. Totally unaware.
And that innocent moment, it's so poignant because it perfectly shows the two worlds side by side. Bakary's simple, honest offering versus the, overwhelming, commercially bought future Maa Sanneh offers. Yeah. And when the women see Bakary, see his meager offering of fish, the sources say their tongues sharpen. They immediately jump in, telling Fatou, forget that poor fisherman, focus on Maa Sanneh, do your duty.
Then the argument shifts, doesn't it? From just peer pressure to something much heavier, family authority. Fatou's mother, Mariama, steps in. She's not angry, apparently, but firm. She uses tradition, practicality. She speaks softly but firmly, basically delivering the final word.
Yes, and this is a really crucial cultural point for you to understand. Mariama doesn't just say Maa Sanneh is rich. She brings in the highest authority possible in that context. She claims that the marabouts, the spiritual leaders, the diviners, they've confirmed this marriage will bring blessings. Now, a marabout isn't just, a priest. They hold enormous spiritual, social power. Their word is seen as reflecting destiny, fortune.
Okay, so if a marabout has decreed blessings for this marriage, defying it isn't just disobeying her mother, it's like defying fate itself, risking the whole family's future.
Precisely. It twists the choice from personal heartbreak into potentially catastrophic spiritual consequence. So Fatou bows her head. She obeys. That act, or silent obedience, that's tradition winning out over the individual heart. The stage is now set. Fate's going to intervene, but maybe not in the way the family hoped or planned.
Now the story takes a sharp turn. We move away from the celebrations of the wealthy to the intense anger of the heartbroken. Bakery Niminko, down by the river, finds out the news. She's been bought. The wedding is just days away. The source material says similar rage and heartbreak consumed him. This isn't just sadness, it's the spark for, supernatural intervention.
Right, and we see Beckery's character here. He doesn't confront the family, not physically. He seems to recognize that money has bought something that maybe only fate or something beyond the ordinary can challenge. His response is immediate and purely mystical. He seeks out Jallo, a known, powerful marabout. This is the moment the fight leaves the purely human sphere and becomes a kind of spiritual battle. And Jallo, interestingly, doesn't seem to hesitate. He gets it. He understands that Maa Sanneh used wealth to try and, overwrite destiny, maybe? And Bakuri is now looking to restore that balance. Jallo gives him a truly horrifying way to get revenge.
He's given 3 specific charms. Each one represents a total break, a severance, but with different levels of finality. The choices are designed, it seems, to make Bakuri decide exactly how much cosmic justice or perhaps revenge he wants.
Let's just spell those out because they are chilling. The first charm brings death.
Right.
The second brings madness. And the third just drives the person away.
Think about those choices for a second. If Bakuri used the third charm, Maa Sanneh might just, flee the village. He'd lose his investment, his status, but he'd live. If he chose the second, madness, Maa Sanneh would suffer a kind of living death, perhaps stripped of the very mind that helped him get his wealth.
The first one, death. That's absolute. It suggests Bakuri felt Maa Sanneh's actions trying to buy what was maybe destined for him was such a deep violation that it demanded complete removal, annihilation.
And the story says Bakery accepts these charms, his hands trembling, and uses them. So this raises a big question for us, doesn't it? Is Bakery the villain here? Or is he just the instrument of a destiny that Maa Sanneh and Fatou's parents tried to ignore or defy?
That's the ambiguity. By going to the marabout, he could be seen as enforcing a spiritual decree, maybe reinforcing the idea that Maa Sanneh's wealth, no matter how great, couldn't actually buy him the blessing, the fate that belonged to someone else. It's complex.
So everything is now hurtling towards Thursday, the wedding day. And the description of the celebration is deliberately grand, almost excessive. It really highlights the doom that's hanging over it all. The whole village is celebrating. Griots are playing the kora, the traditional harp lute, the instrument of history and storytelling. Women are cooking feasts, men singing praises for Maa Sanneh. It's the absolute peak of his social triumph.
And Maa Sanneh looks apart, doesn't he? Dressed like royalty. Fine white robes, gold embroidery. He's achieved everything he set out to achieve, materially speaking. Fatou is beside him, silent. Beautiful. Yes, the text says beautiful enough to make the sun pause in its path, but her inner turmoil must be immense, a stark contrast to his public victory.
Everything looks perfect on the outside, but it's poisoned underneath. As the night wears on, the party's still going, but Maa Sanneh starts to feel unwell, tired. He says to Fatou, "I am tired, my love. Let me rest a while." And he lays his head in her lap.
This is it, the moment of possession, perhaps, the closest intimacy they achieve. And Fatou, she smiles, lets him rest there. What's really striking is how quickly the charm or fate acts. The music swells one last time, a final burst of celebration, and then it just dramatically slows down, falters.
And that's the sign. Fatou calls his name, Maa Sanneh. But the source makes it brutally clear. Maa Sanneh did not answer. His body had gone cold, right there, in her lap. The very instant he achieved his goal, the destiny he tried to buy, it collected its price.
And the community's reaction just underscores the finality, the absoluteness of the curse or fate. A sudden, profound hush falls over everything. The griot, the storyteller, the keeper of truth, places his hand on Maa Sanneh's chest, confirms it. The song cuts off. The chorus stops mid-note. The laughter vanishes. The sources make sure we understand. The triumph was total and the fall was just as swift, just as total. That abrupt end shows that destiny, once challenged like this, allows no negotiation. No amount of wealth could stop it. Hashtag tag 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 outro. So the tale ends right there, with the sudden death of Maa Sanneh Ceesay, the man who thought gold could buy anything, even love that was destined elsewhere. The tragic outcome is deeply embedded in the story's message, trying to replace real connection with just stuff. With material wealth, it ultimately leads to ruin.
So what's the takeaway for us, for you listening? This really powerful cultural warning passed down in the Gambia, it's not just about greed, is it? It forces us to think about the incredible power of tradition, of spiritual beliefs, of the family unit, in shaping love and life. It shows that even if you have all the money in the world, all the material provision, if that spiritual connection, that emotional truth isn't there, well, the whole thing is built on shaky ground, rotten even.
And the final warning from this potent story, it's something worth really thinking about. Do not buy what love freely gives, and never forget what destiny forbids.
Yeah, maybe ponder how often, even today, we see people prioritize the external status, money, appearances, over what's going on inside, over genuine connection and feeling. And think about the potential cost of that imbalance. Definitely something to mull over long after the story ends. Until next time.
Andamane